incorporates the most advanced to encourage the development of cities in harmony. UN Habitat Green City International Award. Number 5. The rising level of urbanization is further enhancing the role of traditional self-governing structures within cities. In that regard, I propose to hold the 15th session of the World Urban Forum in New Tashkent in the year 2030, with the main theme to be the role of the local communities in the sustainable development of cities. Dear participants of the forum, I am confident that today's event will facilitate the finding of joint solutions to mutually beneficial and promising issues, as well as pave the way for new initiatives and make a significant contribution to the development of the field. In conclusion, I wish the forum great success. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Excellency. I have the honor to invite His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya. Your Excellency, floor is yours.
Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, in 2002, there was the first World Urban Forum held in Nairobi, Kenya. Last month, we held Africa Urban Forum again in Nairobi, Kenya. Today, we have come for the 13th World Urban Forum here in Baku, in this great country, and I want to thank His Excellency President Ilham Aliyev for his welcome and his hospitality extended to us. Excellencies, this is a most consequential forum because of the exigencies of housing in almost every country. Statistics show us that 3 billion people suffer from inadequate housing. 1 billion people live in slums, and 300 million people are homeless. These are not cold statistics. These are not numbers. These are people. These are families. These are children. And that is why this meeting in this great city with a great history is important. Article 25 of the Declaration of Universal Human Rights affirms that housing is a right. And today, as we are in Baku, we have a serious housing challenge globally, and the right under Article 25 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is breached. Let me take this opportunity to give you Kenya's perspective. We have 1,100 informal settlements. We have 7 million people living in these informal settlements. And as a result, we took the decision that it was not tenable, it was not right for us to continue in this trajectory. And therefore, we took the housing program as a central pillar of our development program. And what did we do? 3 things. Number 1, the biggest constraint to housing was availability of land. Number 2, the challenge was cost of construction. And number 3, it was financing housing. How did we solve this problem? Number 1, we made it mandatory that all public land be available for housing without charge, free of charge. That removed 30% of the cost of housing. Number 2, we decided that we are going to reduce the cost of construction. How did we do it? 2 things. Number 1, we negotiated with professionals, architects, quantity surveyors, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, and all the professionals in that space. Because they were building 10, 20 houses a year, we offered them to build 3,000, 4,000 houses a year. They reduced their cost of supervision and professional cost, from 10% of the cost to 2.5% of the cost. Number 2, we also standardized construction sizes, and we standardized construction materials. Doors became the same size, windows became the same size, and all the other construction materials, and therefore it became possible to produce these construction items en masse, and therefore reduce the cost. And number 3, how did we deal with financing? We decided to take one dedicated financing mechanism. We passed the law, established a housing fund, charged a housing levy, and today we have a dedicated funding mechanism financed by locally mobilized resources to build houses. What is the outcome? I will tell you what the outcome is in Kenya. In the last 3 years, we are building 273,000 housing units. 8,000 keys have been handed over. 55,000 keys will be handed over before the end of this year. And we have a pipeline of 700,000 housing units. I can say with confidence that today in Kenya, we have the largest housing program in the continent of Africa. Let me also say the following. We have mobilized, because of our housing fund, we have mobilized $5 billion from local or domestic resources. We haven't borrowed a single shilling from the World Bank. We haven't borrowed a single shilling from any other institution. This is locally developed resources. We have, as a result, employed 640,000 young people, architects, quantity surveyors, masons, carpenters, electricians, and all the other professionals. And we are on the way to hiring 1 million young people in the short term. And number 3, we have begun the journey of reversing slum growth. In fact, in the city of Nairobi, we have started to remove slums, to replace them with decent housing. And number 5, we have reduced land fragmentation. We now have more land to do agriculture because we are consolidating settlements in proper organized cities. I am giving the Kenyan perspective because I had my sister Sarah from my neighbor country in Uganda, and she made a very fundamental statement. She was just wondering how it is possible for a person in a slum to be able to live in a skyscraper on the 11th floor. Let me tell Sarah, it is possible. We have done it in Kenya. The cost of a social house on the 11th floor is the same as the cost of a slum dwelling house. They used to pay $40. They now pay $40 on the 11th floor because we have set up the mechanism for that to happen. Finally, let me speak to two paradoxes. As I stand here, 25% of the world's population will be living in the African continent by 2050. If there is a place that housing is important and urgent, it is in our continent. Why? Because that is where the world population, a quarter of the world population, will be living. And 70% of that population will be living in urban centers. And therefore, housing becomes a central pillar of how the world will look like in the future. And that is why it is important for this meeting to focus on two items. We have a serious paradox. A continent that has huge resources, that will have the world's largest population, 25% of the world's population by 2050, today cannot access concessional funding to drive its development. Much more important, housing, because today African countries and emerging economies pay 2, 3, 4 times more to access development financing because of elements of risk. We need to correct this paradox, and that is why we have said there is urgent need to reform the international financial architecture so that it is aligned to the needs, the requirements, and the imperatives of the current world. Most of our countries did not exist in 1945 when the Bretton Woods institutions were established. Today, we do not have enough voice, we do not have enough access, and even the paradox is that the countries who need concessional funding the most pay more than the countries who don't need it when they go to the market. That has to be corrected. And that is why we are of the firm position as African countries that we need the reform of the international financial architecture so that it represents the exigencies of the present. And finally, we need to correct another paradox, that 1.5 billion people in the African continent, the largest body of membership of the United Nations, 55 countries from Africa, are not represented at the highest decision-making organ of the United Nations Security Council. And the bigger paradox is that 60% of the agenda of the United Nations Security Council are African issues. What a paradox, that your issues are being discussed on a table that you are not represented. And that is why we are saying, for the survival of the United Nations, there must be reform that corrects this anomaly, that brings justice, so that the United Nations and the United Nations Security Council specifically becomes representative, democratic, and brings on board the views of the African continent. That is how we are going to solve the problems of the present and figure out how we are going to have a better future. In Baku, we have the opportunity to influence and to change the cities of the future and make them livable, sustainable, and good for everybody. I thank you.
You can see almost a similar situation as it was up when we were there at Moi Avenue. Just, people about just moving here and there. No much activities and many just seated. Of course, a presence of heavy security. And as you can see, we can just see we've spotted a lorry that is moving. And of course, motorbikes, personal vehicles, which the only what we are seeing that are moving, but public means there are not many public transport that are, trying to move from one place to another. Always the busy streets. Unaweza magari huko chini. Utazichukua. So many people are preferring using, the boat and also private means just to get to town, maybe. But transport is kind of a tricky thing in this place. So this is on a normal day here. Could have been a traffic. We could have seen fleets of vehicles which are trying to move into town from Mombasa Road and some coming from there are other areas like Upper Hill, but right now, as we just see, it's a very empty place, just motorbikes and as reported earlier, just motorbikes and private taxis that are trying